or so coal dependent, decreasing in price there. So I think that's while that may not demonstrate that wind is the reason they decreased in price, I think it's a fairly good argument that adding more renewables is not necessarily going to increase the price of your electricity rates. So, what are some of the policies that Iowa has added that may be playing a role in their significant growth in wind energy? They do have a renewable energy production tax credit, which provides 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour to small wind producers, and then 1 cent per kilowatt hour for large wind producers. There's also property and sales tax exemptions. They have a revolving loan fund, and they also have a mandatory green power option. And that is a requirement that all utilities offer the option to ratepayers who want to select green power and pay possibly slightly more for it. They may pay 1, 2, or 3 more cents, usually 2 cents or so more per kilowatt hour, because they feel that they want to support green energy, or they want their energy to come from renewable resources. So by requiring that, those utilities then, for all the ratepayers who request this, have to go out and acquire this renewable energy. So they calculate how much demand they have for that, and then they either go build it or they buy it from existing renewable energy producers such as wind farms and the like.
Was the mandatory green power option legislative action? Or
It was, yeah. So it required all utilities to offer green power.
Where's the authority go? Is it in the legislature law or is it regulation?
It was legislated, but it required regulation then through the PUC to require these utilities to add that as an option for all ratepayers. And then you know, to be honest, I don't have a breakdown how many people have chosen this, but from what I've read, that has played a small role in helping to incentivize and get utilities on board with this. And really what it is after the utilities get used to this, they get on a track and the ball gets rolling, and they find, wow, we're getting more skills, and they get more comfortable integrating wind. They find that, well, we can still keep the lights on. We're not having to build additional backup generation, that they just become more comfortable with it. And then they see also the benefits that they can tell their consumers, your energy is green. Your energy is not creating greenhouse gases or any type of pollution to some, you know, to maybe a small amount of pollution. Obviously, you have to manufacture these turbines and such, but there's consumers who are in their audience, the ratepayers, that's what they want. So they're finding that it's beneficial for them. They also have a revolving loan fund, which helps finance large projects, because obviously these upfront costs can be very high. The long-term support costs may be very low, but there's always this upfront cost. And let's see. Yeah, and I just also wanted to say that within Iowa now, there's 9 companies that are dedicated to producing or repairing turbines, towers, and turbine components. And they also operate, or there are more planning to own and operate and grow their plants within Iowa, due to their renewable portfolio standard and their and the utilities' willingness to expand on wind and promote wind. So some of the critical supporting policies for wind in general are net metering, especially for the smaller non-utility scale wind, which essentially, as I mentioned, allows the meter to run backwards and essentially bank these kilowatt hours for later use on the grid. Expedited siting and environmental review, as I mentioned earlier, for both solar and wind are key and critical. Coordinated transmission policies, as mentioned before, production incentives, which Iowa does have, or a feed-in tariff, which I'll actually talk about a little later. and system benefit funds, which a number of states do have. I think almost half, maybe about a third of states have system benefit funds, which are essentially funds that are created usually through legislative action that require utilities to tag on a little extra cost onto the utility bill from the ratepayer, and then that goes into a fund. So it might be 50 cents per month or $1 a month, goes into this fund, and that fund is then used for energy efficiency. It's used for rebates for renewable energy and used for other types of incentives. And sometimes these system benefit funds are key for setting up programs and funding programs for renewable energy, both when it comes to knowledge-based programs where you can have folks that can go out and give objective advice to people who are interested in renewable energy, because oftentimes they're confused and they're not really sure they can trust the local developer. So I want to talk a little bit about solar. I know that it's probably not on the minds of most Nebraskans, but solar set-asides are a popular way that states have looked at to promote solar energy, and it's part of a policy within the Renewable Portfolio Standard. The reason that they carve out this small percentage, usually ranging from, in New York, it's 0.15% of customer of all energy has to come from solar, up to 4% in New Mexico. Colorado is 0.8%. And in New Jersey, being a relatively cloudy region and not super high in solar resources, actually has a 2%, which is one of the highest in the nation. It's really moving forward quickly with solar installations. The reason for this is really this market transformation approach of incentivizing solar, because it does have some benefits that wind doesn't and other renewable energy doesn't. That is, it can be located at the site of consumption very easily on rooftops. There's plenty of rooftops space available throughout a lot of major cities, so they don't have to worry about the siting issue. It can be located near the site of consumption, again, where that's where energy is being consumed. They don't have to deal with building transmission. In addition, the hope is that by increasing the demand, that ramps up manufacturing, ramps up research, and eventually there's predictions, anyways, the Department of Energy and some other manufacturers and research institutions are predicting that by the year 2015, Southwest should see grid parity, essentially price parity on solar energy, so by 2015. And these types of incentives are one of the reasons, I think, that they're looking to meet grid parity. And so states see the benefit, but the other benefit they see is also building this technological base, building the expertise within their states so that they can take advantage of this in the future, also to attract business and development and R&D. So some of the key policies that have been created for reducing solar, I think net metering is key. It really is key, actually. It's a necessity, in fact. And good net metering to have a good solar program. It's also key for small wind as well. Allows customers, as I said, to store excess electricity generated, usually in the form of a kilowatt-hour credit on the grid for later use. 39 states do have net metering. However, the policies range dramatically, and they range in the fact that how much will they reimburse you for. Sometimes they won't give you the complete market price. They might only give you the avoided cost price. It might only be 1/3 as much. They may limit the size of the system to a fairly small system. So there's a lot of variations, and some of the best policies that have been adopted have been in Colorado, Maryland, Florida, New Jersey, and Oregon. Another key is monetary incentives. Since solar has huge upfront costs, I shouldn't say huge, but it's really significant, and the payback is long-term. It may take 15 years or so to actually pay for itself, maybe less depending on the types of incentives. And so these type of monetary incentives are key. Really, sales and property tax incentives can be helpful, although they're not significant. Rebates are key as well. They can be a much larger driver. And production